It's preseason for Project Diablo 2, and I, along with some others, are getting flack for putting out tier lists and rankings, or whatever you want to call them, a little early. And considering there was some controversy a few seasons back over tier lists in general, I think it's a good time to get the channel back to basics and video essay this MFR up. So let's talk about the truth. Heavy topic for a video game video essay, but stay with me. Let's pretend the truth is here. It's a little widget of something. It exists, but we can't know it fully. I mean, if we could know the truth with a capital T fully, then we wouldn't have had 2,000 years of philosophy responding to the Greeks. The truth is difficult, it's complex, and could be objective or subjective. We don't really know. And the previously stated 2,000 years of philosophizing, I think, proves that. But we know it's something, right? Well, why is it so hard to find the truth? Let's put this little, unknowable, hard-to-reach truth in a black sphere. The sphere is opaque, and we can't see through it. The sphere represents all of the physical limitations against us knowing the truth. Our lack of time to master a subject, a lack of time to master multiple subjects, sample bias, regular bias, imperfect studies, bad scientific methods, you get the point. So we try and we get a little window into this sphere, most of us, by adhering to a dogma or a philosophy. You could view this sort of as an analytic tool. A little knife to carve out a section of the sphere and peer in on the truth the best we can. These analytic tools can be expertise in a subject, the scientific method, deferring to experts who've done the work for us. Regardless, we all have a method or a group of people who adhere to certain methods to find the truth. I carve out a little piece of this black sphere and peer in on it. That little object is contained inside, and I see this, a little red triangle. Now, I've used my analytic tools, and my analytic community agrees triangle-shaped windows are the best for viewing beyond the veil. So I say, aha, the truth is a little red triangle. But then someone else with their different type of analytical tool carves out the other side, and they see this, a little purple circle. Their analytic community says circles are the best for viewing the truth, and on a different side. And they've cut into it, and they see a purple circle. All right, well, at last, someone does the same thing, but they cut a circle in a little larger, and in that, they see a blue square circumscribed within that circle. So who is right? Well, it might be all of us, because in my analogy, the truth is a three-dimensional square with different color sides. So you can see how all of the experts might have a different opinion that is technically right using their framework, while not having a full picture of what is going on. Now imagine that black sphere is 300 feet tall and the shape is so complex everyone has a different opinion on what's inside. That's what finding objective truth in the world is like. Well, you say this is an easy problem to solve. We simply need everyone to cut enough holes into the sphere and communicate effectively. Cool. But now when you cut too many holes, someone calls you a racist for cutting the way you did. And moreover, we only have enough time in Western society to train people well enough to cut one type of hole. We hyper-specialize ourselves in almost all modern countries so we can be good at one job. Hell, they have 7-year programs that funnel people into the ability to cut specific holes. It's called a PhD. But that limits the viewer to their very specific expertise. This is why appeals to authority are fallacies. Even the experts have to pass a sniff test, because while they might be cutting holes very effectively, they could be missing a larger piece of the puzzle. This is often how I run my job as a divorce lawyer. A client comes in and lists off all the abuse their spouse committed over the years, and that's all they want to focus on. But that's just the little red triangle of the truth. We need to know what the client does well as a parent with their kids, and that truth is a little purple circle. We present that with the red triangle, and then we need to know their education and background and religion and what makes them and their family tick. So we can present all of these shapes to a judge and find out who has the best version of the truth, or the most complete version, at least. And it doesn't always work. We sometimes and often get things wrong, but it's the best way we know how to get something resembling objective truth when objective truth is truly unknowable. Even Augustus Aquinas had to give this up, and he spent, 60 years searching for objective truth and had to admit, hey, it's faith in God, that's the only way to get there. And that was most of his life he spent thinking about that. Actually, it gets even worse now that I think of it, because when searching, these experts who have cut little holes into this sphere to find truth, they often lie. My experience was researching correlations between out-of-wedlock births and poverty. And the short version of this, because this is already getting long, was I was looking at divorce rates by race and how it related to poverty. And one right-wing source listed the correlation between divorce and out-of-wedlock birth as a 0.9. which, if you have an even like a cursory understanding of social sciences, should raise some eyebrows among you. And a left-wing source said that correlation was 0.3, which is not very much at all. Even worse, when I found both studies were using the exact same base surveys to get their results, my head started to spin. How did two parties take one data set and come to different conclusions? Well, the surveys were based on race, and they split Black, Hispanic, and Asian differently. Take Hispanic, for example. Who is Hispanic? Mexico, right? Certainly. Hispanic just means Spanish-speaking sphere. Well, what about the Philippines, where divorce and out-of-wedlock birth rate is low because they're very, very Catholic? Are they Hispanic? Well, yes, if you're the left-wing source trying to minimize the correlation. You lump them in even though they're definitely different than the rest of the Hispanic sphere. And if you're right-wing, you remove them and put them into a separate category. That's how both of these parties were manipulating the raw data. The real correlation was 0.7, by the way, which is still really strong, but not insanely doctored like 0.9 or 0.3. To give you an idea, 0.3 is like 10% of the reason something's happening. 0.9 is all of it. 0.9 is the strength of correlation between having two genetic twins raised in similar but different environments and the odds of them coming out having the same personality. That's the strongest correlation I know of in the social sciences, and to claim something was even remotely that strong is just insane. The worst part was on this subject, technically the conservatives were more with quotations around it, right than the liberals, but they still manipulated raw data unethically. And it was actually a center-left source I found who spoke, and I spoke with them, and they put out the raw data unaltered. I mean, how's that for confusing in politics? The right was correct but lied, the far left was wrong and lied worse, but the center-left found out they were sort of wrong and still published the correct data anyway. This is why politics sucks, because that objective truth might be cut in such odd ways as to become an abject lie. What the hell does this have to do with PD2 lawsuit? Hang on, baby birds, I'll feed you. This is how you should view not just any expert telling you anything about anything, but how you should view information coming to you on gaming as well. This is a universal principle, and every person ranking, listing, tiering, analyzing something should lay out their framework for doing so. It's not the base study, guys, that matters. It matters how you're viewing it. So my truth, the little red triangle, might be very close if I've defined the hole I'm cutting as price to performance, which is how my season starters are ranked, for example. Someone looking at pure endgame power might view things as the little red purple circle, and someone testing bear sorks because they're silly and FUD, chug, I see you, might say the little blue square is correct. It's not that the truth is subjective, in my opinion. It's that it's so hard to know that we need to take every expert's opinion as subjective, at least until we find someone smart enough at everything under the sun as to break down this little black sphere into nothing and view the entire truth object. We might as well call that person God if they come into existence. Or the Ubermensch hitting society like a flash of lightning, Nietzsche fans out there. So before we all jump on tier lists and rankings and everything else, take them all with a grain of salt. It's everyone's opinion based on how they want to play or view the game. And to try and show this, I'm going to try and break my own analytic framework, which is almost always price to performance, and expand a little ranking into other areas of the game. So sometime next week, I'll try listing out some good solo self-found characters to play, thanks to a suggestion from Between Walls, who, if you don't know, has probably done most of the editing on the PD2 wiki for you. Give him or her a shout out next time you see them. This is also why you should do your own research, because, well, the only person who knows the analytic framework that works best for you is you. Seems kind of obvious, doesn't it? And if you have some suggestions for good solo self-found classes, hit me up with them below, especially some smaller channels who stayed to the end of this video, and I can give you a shout out for suggesting them. See you later, guys.